Okay. So it says accept. When we
Right.
when
So now we are
we
now
accept it,
we
accept it, right? Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay.
And now we are live on YouTube, it seems. Yes, seeming to be so. Anyway though, all right, Nasim. So here we go in three, in two, and one. Welcome or welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. Today, we are joined basically on the spot here by Nasim, who has quite a story to tell. So, who is Nasim? Your hour starts now.
Well, okay, like I said before, I am one of the I will say I'm a pretty I'm real sensitive. I'm a very sensitive person, and I'm like I'm loyal. I used to be the kind of person that I used to be like loyal to a fault, but not anymore. Like I know how to make friends, but sadly, I've had people who take advantage of the fact that I am like a kind of person and they will like use it to their advantage. So some people like I would have to like give up sometimes. But normally, like I keep friends for a lifetime, basically. Normally. I keep friends for a lifetime, stuff like that. And like when I know you, I want to know basically everything about you. Basically. Basically.
Hmm. Okay. Well, that's a great start. So if I said to you, if I said, Nasim, I want to know everything about you, what would you say? How would you respond to that?
Well, basically everything I told you previously, like in the Discord video, basically. Like basically, like I told you, like I'm Muslim, like I'm very passionate. Um, and like I've been blind ever since I was a kid. But I will say though, adjusting to it was not it was not an easy road. It was not an easy
Hmm.
road. Like it was a very hard road, especially living among people who especially like my whole family is sighted. So like it was very hard accepting the fact that I was blind. But like I told you before, as I got older, I've accepted it in a very unique way. I've accepted it in a very unique way. And strange thing is, I used to think that a blind person wasn't capable of experiencing a romantic relationship because of the fact that society bases attraction on appearance. So I used to think that because of my vision impairment, I would never be able to be with somebody. But the many trial and the error, whoo, man, I found actually I have a girlfriend and I met her in a visually impaired blind gaming group. And whoo, man, she is very sweet.
Well, that sounds very good, man.
She is
Yeah.
very sweet, very sweet.
Hmm.
She accepted the fact that I'm not a Christian and stuff like that, but she's still with me anyway. Oh man, I love this woman.
Well, that's wonderful.
I love this woman.
So, back to something that you said a moment ago. You said that you went blind as a child, right?
Yep, I was
But
born blind.
you, oh, okay, were you born blind or did you go blind after you were born?
Born, born blind.
Okay, fine. So, me too, by the way. And I do have some
Yep.
usable vision. Now, you also
Mhm.
said that you accepted your blindness in a very unique way. So, what is acceptance, by the way?
Like I've accepted the fact that I would never be able to see anything and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like I also explained before, I also accepted the fact, like basically, I look at it from a moral standpoint and practical standpoint simultaneously. because the average person in my age range, all they want to do nowadays is party, sex, drugs, all that kind of stuff. The simple fact that I have been blind my whole life, I've never been
Hmm.
tempted to do that kind of thing. I've never been tempted to to do that. I know that there's some blind people that do it, but I'm not like that. There's some blind people, like who do engage in that kind of behavior, but I don't do that.
Right, right.
I don't do that.
Okay, okay, right. So it sounds like to me that you have some maybe concerns about the younger generation, and I also share those concerns. But so what do you think of the younger generation? I'm 32 years old, by the way. So what do you think about the younger generation?
Honestly, the younger generation, I kind of view them. I don't really have. I guess you would say. I, I mean, how do I put this? Like, I mean, it's sad the way that they're going. Like, it's
Hmm.
sad that they're being influenced, to do those kind of things because they feel like basically they feel like that being grown, you like basically they think, okay, then I'm grown, I can just go off the handle. No, there's still rules even when you're an adult. It's just the rules aren't the kind of rules that you have when you're a kid. The rules are now the rules of the real world. The
That's
rules,
that's very that's very good advice.
the rules,
It's mhm.
the rules aren't. Oh no, I can't do this because mom and dad said it. No, the rules are if you do this, I'm going to be told by the cops.
Right, right. Yeah, that's very important. The fact is that as we get older, we discover that there's life kind of gets harder each
Mm-hmm.
year,
Yep,
you know,
it does.
because with every passing year, you will start to see that you have more guilt.
Mm-hmm.
You will start to see that you realize that serious mistakes are being made all over the world, and
World.
you start to realize it more and more and more.
Yep.
And it's gotten a lot worse.
Oh yes, it has.
It's the
Oh,
situation
it
that we are
has.
living in now has gotten very, very serious very quickly.
Oh yes, most definitely.
Hmm.
Especially, especially, and like I said before, I'm a very deep, I am a religious person. So it's
Hmm.
like, basically without religion, basically, it's like basically now nobody doesn't have any sense of right and wrong anymore. Basically, morality is like relative.
Hmm. Well, it sounds like you've given a lot of thought to morality and right and wrong. So what is
Oh yeah,
moral? So what is moral to you?
moral is what we like for example, well, like
Hmm.
I said before, like I said before, you're a spiritual person, so like I don't know, like, well, like I don't know, I I don't know if you hold this view or not, but when it comes to Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, all three of them hold that homosexuality or thing basically, or things of that nature is a major sin. The atheist, the person who believes in more relativism, don't hold that. The whole thing
Hmm.
is, you can do what you want. No, no, it don't work like that. It don't work like that. So it's like, so, so it's like, you know, honestly, I look at like the political system, especially like liberals like that, is nothing but like more decline and self destruction.
Right. Right.
More,
Exactly.
more decline and self destruction. That's basically all it is, basically.
Hmm. Hmm.
And like it's sad how people, especially like I say, people my age range, trick themselves into thinking that if they go that route, they'll have an easier life. No, you won't. You won't. Your life will be nothing. Your
Right.
life will be nothing,
Hmm.
essentially.
You're definitely onto something, Nasim. So how should we live our lives?
Well, well. well, from the Islamic standpoint, basically we should live it the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his prophet, peace be upon him, uh was, ba- basically told us to live our to live um our life based upon worshiping him alone and following his prophet, peace be upon him. So
Okay,
following his
good.
prophet.
Excellent. So can you give me some concrete examples how you live your life in this way?
Basically, 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 I do my best to abstain from like falling into like major sins and stuff like that. And like I worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of my ability.
Beautiful.
I worship him to the best of my ability.
Beautiful. Very good, man. Yes. So, what would you say if I told you, Nasim, that I think that all people on earth are flawed from birth?
Now, like, and that's something that the Muslim we don't like. That's something that the Muslim we don't like. That's something that we don't believe in. Like, if anything, we believe that the person is born pure and stuff like that. But we do believe that everything is predetermined. Basically,
Hmm.
everything, everything is predetermined and stuff like that. But we also believe that people have free will.
Mm, mm-hmm.
We also
Mm-hmm.
believe that people have free will too.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
there's no
Okay.
but there's no concept of like original sin or nothing like that.
Okay.
We
All right.
believe that we
Right.
believe that we believe that everyone is born, with a sinless nature.
Mm-hmm.
And we also believe that the Muslim is well, the person is born with the innate nature to worship Allah alone, but it is the parents who turn them into a Jew or a Christian.
Right. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I just find that to be very interesting because my worldview is that all people are basically I have a pretty bleak uh my my whole perception of society as it has gone downhill these past few years is that basically all people are bad. That part of being a person, the reason why we're here is to make other people's lives better and
Mm-hmm.
to improve upon ourselves, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So by no means am I saying that Nasim is a bad man. No, not true. What I'm saying is that all of us are inherently problematic people to which we have to go through life trying to improve upon ourselves. And by
Mm-hmm.
so doing, being able to more easily help other people. And that's kind of my perception on, why we're here in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So why, but you tell me, why are we here in the first place? Certainly, you and I have been given a specific mission in life, right? I'm blind. Like I said, I'm blind. I'm Jewish, right? I have a lot of different views from you, but in essence, we probably have a lot of the same opinions. We just don't know it yet. So, why do you think we're here on Earth in the first place?
Well, like for me,
Hmm.
like if I was asking that question, basically for me, like I look at it from an Islamic standpoint. Basically, the only reason why we were created is to worship Allah alone. Like basically,
Hmm.
the, the, the verse in the Quran goes, Allah says, "I have not created jinn and man except to worship me alone."
Right, right. And you used a good vocab word before. I know what it is, but can you remind the listeners, for those who are not familiar, what is that word jinn?
The the jinn are another species entirely. They are beings who are like unseen, but but they but they too, like humans, have the ability to either be, Muslims, Jews, Christians, or things of that nature. But
Okay.
but they can't be seen by anyone.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
can't be seen.
What do you suspect is the purpose of these entities, creatures? Jed, what do you suppose is the purpose?
The same the same purpose as mankind, to worship Allah alone. That's like
Hmm.
basically that's the only reason why we, like humans and jinn, were put upon this earth. We weren't put here to, like make money and stuff like that
Hmm.
and stuff like that. Like, can we do that? Yes, yes, but that's not our main purpose.
Right. Right. Exactly. Hmm. Hmm. Well, do you want to hear my opinion about that?
Yeah,
Well, you're correct. And also, Jin, these unseen entities, they might be having a little bit of a lesson in that, which is that in life, there are always things that we cannot see, and
true, most definitely,
there are always things that we do not understand.
most definitely,
But if you're looking at it from a religious perspective, it would mean that we don't understand, but we know that God is watching, is what it
most
is.
definitely, most definitely, most definitely, and
Mhm.
that's exactly why I always say that atheism. That's why I say, for me, I can never be an atheist. Why? Because 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 I base my belief on a
Mhm.
God, and the fact that when I supplicate for things, things happen.
Mhm. Okay. Well, I think you would not qualify to be an atheist because Allah made a Nasim. Okay. So I
And you
I I I
and,
don't think you
and you
would
say
qualify.
and,
Huh?
and you and you say that so accurately. Wow, a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people can't say that accurately.
Well, that's
A,
that's
a
that's the
lot of people can't
truth,
say that so
right?
accurately. Oh
Well,
yeah,
okay. Well, that might be the case. Because you apparently, Nasim, you were put on this earth to be a Muslim person,
oh
for
yeah.
for the purpose of, well, that's what God wanted you. That was the intention, before you were, conceived, and before you came down to earth to carry out your mission. But I will tell you that I'm also concerned, by people who are atheist. And I also respect and look up to people who are atheist in the sense that they have the courage to not believe in something,
Yeah.
right? Right? You and I believe in God, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have different names for the God that we believe in, but if you
Mm-hmm.
don't mind me saying, and if you do mind, let me know, but if you don't mind me saying, I believe there's one God, and I think the
Oh.
God guy, I think it's the same guy, okay, or a very
Mm-hmm.
similar entity, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure there's a whole lot of difference, right, after we live out our days and go to the next phase, the next step in life. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of difference from the place you will go to the place I will go. Okay, nothing, nothing personal. Just saying.
Oh yeah.
I,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the heaven thing's the same, right? I think it's the same for the most part. Now, the question that we can dig into philosophically, man, and you know how much I love talking about this, is, well, what will we experience, at the end of it all? Well, the answer there, which this might be a good answer or a bad answer, well, it depends on what we do now. It depends on the life that we live now. But I do look up to people who are atheist because it takes a lot of courage to say that you do not
I
believe.
believe. Oh, that's so true. That is
You
so
know,
true.
that's actually a
So
sign
true.
of, I think that when someone tells me that they do not believe, I think that's actually a sign of great integrity and actually great sense of self. I think that's actually in some realm, Nassim, I think that's actually kind of a great thing in itself. I don't believe in it myself. I could never. I would
Me
be too.
either.
I would be too. Look. guys, personally, I would be too scared to be an atheist. But if you have the courage to be an atheist, that might be, hey,
Honestly, okay,
yeah,
honestly, for me, I compare atheists to children who hate rules. Honestly,
sort of, yes,
that's how I
sort of.
compare it to.
Okay, but the difference, Nasim, is that children, generally speaking, do not deny the existence of their
Of a
parents.
God. True, true,
Right.
true. They don't.
So
They don't. They don't.
so the dis so now I don't know. Okay. I think, believe it or not, Nassim, without realizing this, this is actually on my podcast here at Aaron's Opinion. We've been doing this for over 3 years. We
Mm-hmm.
have a section of the podcast called PAR, which stands for Philosophy and Religion. And I think you would fit in perfectly. So whether I knew it or not, this is actually an episode of PAR where we're going to talk about God and the universe and things like that. And I think you would fit perfectly. Don't worry. The episode will look the same, and you won't really notice any difference, except you will see the labeling will be PAR, and that
Okay.
means that we're going to talk
Cool.
about philosophy. Yeah,
Cool.
because you really want to dig into this with me, and you really want to talk about God, and I think that's beautiful. I really do. Um, but no, I mean the difference that I see is that someone who is just defiant to their parents and doesn't want to follow their rules. Well, that's not because parents exist. That's because they don't want to follow the rules and do the chores. But
Exactly.
but if
Exactly.
you're okay, but the difference, follow the logic here. The difference though is that then if you're an atheist, what you're really saying is that not only do I not believe in God, but I actually deny the existence thereof. So
Of God. Yeah. True.
a
True.
denial, so deny being someone who lives in denial is different from someone who is defiant, right? There's a
Oh,
difference between denial and
and
defiance, and that's
defiance.
exactly the difference. So yes, you're right.
Interesting.
You're right. And then you have this other scope of people, this other section of people,
Mm-hmm.
called, of course, nihilism. Of course, the
Oh
belief the
yeah, I heard
belief
of them.
in,
Heard
in
about.
nothing. Yeah. What do you think of them?
I don't really know much about that. I don't know much about that. Basically, my knowledge is basically centered around like atheists. I don't know much about like like the other group, but
Okay.
but 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 atheism is also like is a form of disbelief, and
Mm-hmm.
it's also a form of what we call polytheism. But but
Mm-hmm.
but in Islam, like there is two types: polytheism by association and polytheism by negation. And that's what the atheist basically practices. The atheist
Yeah.
basically their whole thing is like 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 basically they believe that something that like basically something or someone else created the universe, not God
Mm-hmm.
himself.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Mm-hmm.
God himself.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I think in a philosophical way, man, I think you're being too kind about it. I think you might have more patience than I do, because I don't view the world that way. Either you believe in monotheism and you understand that the universe was created in
6 days.
6 days,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then
Yep.
God rests on the seventh, right? I'm sure you have in the Quran, I'm sure you have a similar story, not the same, but you have a similar account, a similar narrative. But for people who are into these polytheistic religions, that's great, but it's not what I believe.
Most
And
definitely.
and
Most
the
definitely.
the now here's the very interesting thing to note, that polytheism obviously worked because look at all the things that ancient Egypt did. You know, look at all those people. Remember, when you read the story of the Hebrews or the Jews escaping Egypt under Ramses the second, right? The Ramses
Mm-hmm.
the second guy, he was not Muslim, remember, because Muhammad wasn't born yet. Um, the Ramses the second guy was several thousand years before the Muhammad guy even shows up. So the Ramses the second guy was probably some ancient polytheistic Egyptian religion. Um, Yet very little well, actually a lot is known about ancient Egypt, and I want to dig into this with you. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so who built the pyramids?
I'm. I mean, I don't really have a lot of like knowledge as far as that goes. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know much about like ancient Egypt or Egyptian history. I don't really know much about that kind of stuff because I
Mm-hmm.
will say history has never been my thing. History has never been my thing. I've always like for me, like my main source of knowledge is mostly like 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 I'm like I said before, I'm a religious person, but I'm also a very techie. Like I'm a very techie person, so that's mostly where my knowledge really come from. History not really my thing. Not.
Right, right. Well, there's, Nasim, there's a lot of stories about who built the pyramids, and no one is sure,
Mhm,
100% for sure.
mhm,
Some say, which, I'm curious, I've never asked a Muslim this question, but
mhm.
what do you really think about, ancient alien theory and life from other parts of the universe?
Well, like like basically basically we all believe that that's just stuff that people just come up with, like that's just
Hmm.
that's just fiction and stuff like that, it's just the stuff people just come up with. People
Okay,
come up with that kind of stuff. It's
I
nothing
see.
like, like, no, this no, like it, like it's all the stories like that. We don't believe in that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. Cool. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of stories about it though, and there's also a lot of very strange pieces of evidence in Egypt to suggest that perhaps we were not alone on Earth, but that is fine. That is fine. Yeah. Yeah. So then do you just believe then, I guess, that the pyramids were built by the Hebrews when the Hebrews or Jews were enslaved in Egypt thousands of years back? I mean, is that kind of the story that you heard, or I'm just purely curious.
I mean, like I said before,
Mhm.
I don't really get into, like I don't know nothing about that. All I can do is say really, like I don't know nothing about that kind of thing because I don't
That's
really get
good.
involved in that kind of stuff.
That's
I
well,
don't
well,
get involved
thank
in that kind
you.
of stuff really.
Well, that's fine, man. Well, hey, maybe someday, maybe in a few hours when we connect over WhatsApp or things like that, or you send me a text, maybe maybe I can share some other sides of the story, give you some good videos to watch that may or may not enhance or diminish your knowledge of that. Yeah, but that is very interesting, this whole notion of how some parts of the world choose to be polytheistic and others choose to be monotheistic.
Monotheistic.
Right, right.
And and
Mm-hmm.
and and one thing that a lot of people may not know, but that polytheism, especially when it comes to Islam, polytheism is the one sin that is never forgiven. That's the that's the one sin that
Mm-hmm.
Allah will never forgive. He forgives all sins less than that except polytheism.
Right, right. Yes, because as you would say, there is no God but Allah.
But Allah,
Right.
exactly.
And
Yup.
and Jewish people have a similar phrase, not the same, but a similar phrase. I am the one, your only God. So there is this kind of stipulation, and I don't necessarily want to use the word stipulation, but there is an interesting dynamic here that God seems to say that he's the only one, that it
Only
has
one.
to be
Yep.
the only one.
Mhm.
And I believe that, I really do. But and at the same time, so yes, I'm being a hypocrite. Yes, and at the same time, I also think that there are some mysteries folded into our universe that we don't fully understand also. So, I don't know. I don't know. It's extremely interesting. Yeah. Hmm.
And and to me personally, what I also find sad is how we have like Muslims, like, well, from my experience at least, I've seen Muslims who like are so desperate to, they would either one, basically, like, you got Muslims who will go to the extreme in the sense, well, they where they will deny anything worldly, as like basically they will equate that with disbelief. Or on the other hand, you got Muslims who go to the extreme on the other hand, and basically like they will give up their religion just to compromise with the liberals or stuff like that. And that, I mean, honestly, on both ends of the spectrum is very sad.
Well, anything
Ends of
that
the
is,
spectrum is very
I mean,
sad.
anything that is too much of something is is always a problem. I mean, if it's too much, it's too much, you know. So too much of anything is bad.
Oh
So
yeah, most definitely, most definitely,
that would be the case, right?
most
Yeah.
definitely.
Hmm.
Like for example, like for example, like basically there there's this like pseudo Islam called progressive Islam where they basically try to say that it's okay for the woman, it's okay for the Muslim woman to be with the non-Muslim man, where what we know in Islam that's not the case. Like um like in the Quran it says and I hope I'm taking the wrong way, but in the Quran it says the disbelievers are not are not are not lawful husbands for them, or uh um and the believing women are not lawful wives for the husbands. But again, it all goes back to liberalism. Like women are so you know like like women in especially my age range, they are very gullible and they just like, okay, well, well, if the Muslim man could be with a Christian woman, why can't the why can't the Muslim woman be with the Christian man? It's like they're just very, very like stubborn and don't want to accept, you know, what was already sent down.
Right, right. Yeah, that is very interesting. Yeah, how there's all these different interpretations of certain beliefs, you know. Yeah, that is very interesting. Yes, and very, very concerning. But fortunately or unfortunately, however we look at this, you know, as society continues to, as far as I'm concerned, you know, become more dysfunctional, get worse and
Agreed.
worse, you know,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have to think about this more because we're going to have more people who get into these predicaments and get into this basically this framework in their mind. And you know, the problem is if anyone believes anything for a long enough period of time, it has to be true.
Oh yeah.
So if you believe it long enough, it's true, even if it's a lie. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yep.
know.
Most definitely. Most
If
definitely.
I told you, you know, if I told you that the universe was created by pineapples, the pineapple god, right? And I told future generations that the universe was created by a pineapple god, and then I asked someone who created the universe, what would they say?
Exactly. Don't say that. Don't say that
Right.
because
They would say it's a pineapple god, right?
y'all
That's not true. But if you
no.
say it enough times, it is.
Say it long enough. Y'all people believe it.
You know,
People believe it.
it's a very interesting thing, and I think it really dates back to early civilization when people needed to work together. You know, it's really a reflection on people's willingness to survive and work together. Oh, fine, I'll just believe him so he doesn't hurt me, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yup.
or
Yup.
I'll just believe him. You know, they would say thousands of years ago, I'll just believe this guy so that he doesn't come and burn down my house and hurt my wife tonight, right? If I
Mm-hmm.
believe him, he'll leave us alone, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's kind of the mind, that's, you know, that's the framework in someone's mind where they are able to get to that point of believing and not believing, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, so, and this is the same thing with conspiracy theories too. This is how people fall into this trap. I love conspiracy theories, and some of them I believe, and some of them I don't. But it's fun to talk about it. You know,
Mm.
conspiracy is a fun concept too. You know,
Mm.
what are some what are some conspiracies that you know you that have been on your mind, Nasim?
I mean, I don't really get, like I said before, I don't really get involved in that kind of stuff.
Well,
Like
that's
for
good.
me, for me, I'm a very
Hmm.
logical but also religious person simultaneously. As odd as that may seem, like I'm a very logical person, stuff like that and stuff. Like, and like honestly, like for me, I told you, like, I told you, like my life has not been an easy one, and
Right.
and especially in the in the romance department, like it's oh yeah, most definitely in that sense because think about do, do you know about toxic masculinity? You know about that?
Well, I've heard of it, but you brought it up, so tell us about it.
Okay, basically what it is like society okay, basically believes that a real man shouldn't show emotion, stuff like that. A real man is constantly angry and stuff like that because society believes that any trace of positive emotion is acting like a girl, which is very self-destructive towards men because in the
Hmm.
long run, the man, he as time go on, he will like he can develop heart problems, or worse, he can kill himself because of his because of his pent up rage, and
Hmm.
and he can't release it because of society's toxic toxic health views. And what's so sad is that yet again it'll go back to younger generation, young women, like because social media stuff like that, they think that a real man is a man who has money and is tough, strong, stuff like that, basically, and they equate genuine, kind men with being weak.
Right. Right. Yeah, and that is also a huge issue too. Yeah.
Big
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Big.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, because of my experience with women like that, I've sadly fallen into that trap where I felt like I had to become a bad boy just for a woman to like me. But, 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 man, I'm glad that I don't got to like that anymore because man, whoo, I found, I found, I found, I found a woman that loved me for me like that. She don't try to change me or nothing like that, and I love you.
Well, that's great,
I,
man.
I love you.
Right.
I
Right.
love.
Mm-hmm. So you say that you met your girlfriend in a blind gaming group, right?
You. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I see. Okay, so what can you tell me about blind gaming? You seem to be very interested in that.
Well, there's a game that my friend my friend, I don't even know her, Monica, you know her, Monica
Um,
DuPont.
yes, in fact, she's been on my podcast.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, yeah. She turned me on to this game called Time Crest, and my girlfriend actually likes Time Crest. So that's how we
Hmm.
actually so that's how we actually met actually to talk about Time Crest.
Hmm.
How we actually met.
Okay, so what is this Time Crest game?
It's a interactive fiction game. Interactive, it's a interactive chat story. It's pretty fun.
How does it work?
Um oh man, it's hard to explain how it works. Actually. It's hard to explain. I can't really explain how it works. You would have to if you have an iPhone, you have to put it on your iPhone and know to use it. It's fun though. It's fun. And I managed to complete the whole game. I managed to do the
So,
whole.
like, what is the storyline behind this game?
Okay, basically it's about a kid who has to basically he has to save his world from uh meters and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And then as time go on, in the third time quest 3, it's like you go back to the past where the kid, his brother, Luther Time Quest, he meets uh a man named Alvin, and basically Luther gets um he gets, I guess you say, manipulated. Yeah, he gets manipulated into killing a whole group of people and stuff like that. It's pretty intriguing. It's
I
pretty intriguing.
see. That does in fact sound intriguing for sure. Yeah.
Pretty intriguing.
And then what would happen at the end of this game?
Okay, basically it says that okay, like it'll say like you reached the true ending with Tom Crest, and then I think they make it a Tom Crest 4, but I think it'll be out by next year, sometime next year. I think sometime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. Well, that is very, very interesting,
And
Nasim.
it took me a whole month to play it, a whole month literally. It took me
And
like a
what are
whole month
some
to
of
play
the
it.
what are some of the experiences you have in this game while you are playing it?
Like you have to wait. Like sometimes you have to wait like days for it to like wait days for the timer to end and stuff like that. You have to wait hours. It's pretty intense. Pretty
I
intense.
see. I
Pretty intense.
see. That is very intriguing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Well, that's really, really cool. Yeah. What are some other games that fascinate you?
Well, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm
Mm.
I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I've been a Star Wars fan ever since I was a kid. And like I know more about it than mostly everybody in my family is like that. Believe it or not, most of the people in the group don't even know about it. Like I like to read stuff like that. I read,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I read a lot. So yeah, you know, like like honestly, I will say that my adult life is more fun than my childhood like ever was.
Well, for sure, when we
My
become
adult life, I
adults,
would
we
say
have
like I would say I have way more fun as an adult than I did as a kid.
that's possible. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like I was saying before, once we become adults, we have more privileges, but then we also have more problems.
Oh yeah, most definitely more problems, most definitely.
So it's hard to tell whether the privilege cancels out the problem or the problem cancels the
The
privilege.
privilege. Well, okay. In that sense, it all depends. Like if you want to basically, if you want to live your life basically like, oh man, look at me, oh man, yeah, of course, of course, of course, of course, of course, of course, of course the of course the problem is going to cancel out. But if you live life,
Right.
but if you live your life basically acknowledging the fact that okay, 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 yes, 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 I may have had a traumatic past and stuff like that, but I continue to move forward, then the privilege, outweighs the problem.
Right.
The
Right.
privilege outweighs it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm sure that you have questions for me. I would say I have about another 15 minutes at least. So, what are some questions that you really want to get off your chest that you really want to know about Aaron Richmond and, and Aaron's opinion and what I do and what I think? So, what do you really want to know?
Well, like, am I the first Muslim that you like ever really like talk to like on a one on one kind of thing, or do you know other Muslims like around where you at?
Well, I mean, what are you asking?
Like in a sense, because like said like well, I don't know much about the Jewish community, but I know like when it comes to like whites in general, it's like that Caucasians, they are very very skeptical when it comes to deal with Muslims, and sadly, like the media's like that, and they can be very gullible, and they don't even get the chance to even they don't they don't even get the chance to even get to know a Muslim. They just go by what the media says,
Hmm.
stuff like that and stuff. So, like, I'm wondering, like, have you ever had like a personal like interaction with you know like
Hmm.
with like with like other Muslims, or
I
am I
mean,
the only person? No,
no, no,
like,
no. Certainly, you are not the first Muslim who's been on the podcast. We have a great Tunisian friend of Aaron's opinion who's also blind. Interestingly, he's from the island of dreams, Jarba in Tunisia.
Hmm.
So, so we have him. We've had other people who are Muslim in the past. Yeah. Have I met many Muslims in person? No, not many, but
Not in
I've
person.
met not a great number, but I have met, from time to time.
Cool. That's nice. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. That's
And
interesting.
and like and like honestly, it feels good to talk about religion without getting into a whole argument because some people are so sensitive about it.
And I don't know why.
Oh my
I,
God, man, like
and I
crazy.
really don't know why, because
It's crazy.
here's the most interesting thing about this. We should always be confident talking about religion, and we should always be comfortable talking about religion.
Right.
Because you know why? Until we live out our entire life and go to the next stage, we don't actually know what the truth is. We have some ideas of what the truth could be, and we have very strong faith in what we know the truth is. But until we live out our lifetime, we do not fully know the truth.
And some people, I mean, man, some people are so sensitive about it. That's why, that's why, that's why, like, that's why it's rare for like a non-Muslim to either compliment Muslims on how devoted they are, because the majority of non-Muslims have a deep disdain toward the Muslim community.
Right.
It's very
Mm-hmm.
rare. It's very rare. Like for example, like my girlfriend and one of my friends basically they compliment me on how devoted I am to Islam, and that's very rare because yet again, the Christian community, especially white Christians, are very, very, very gullible, and they'll believe anything they read.
Right.
They'll believe
Right.
anything they read. Christians and atheists both. They'll like literally. They'll like. I mean, like literally. They'll believe anything they read. I mean, like. I
Yeah.
mean. I mean, like nowadays. Now, like matter of fact, I remember I was watching this. I was watching this. I was reading this thing online where it was a story of a white man who murdered a whole Pakistani family all because of the fact they're Muslim. I'm like, really, really, really? You kill someone all because of their belief?
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of these horrific cases throughout history. Yes.
It's
Hmm.
crazy.
It
It's
really
crazy.
is.
It's
Really,
crazy.
it really, really is.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. We may have different belief systems like that, but we're not here to take over the country. We're not here to do nothing like that. You know, like we're
Hmm.
just, we're just, we're just, we're just average people just like you. We just worship and pray differently. We're no
Right.
different. We're no different. We just
Right.
worship and pray differently,
Right. Yeah.
and we believe differently. That's it.
Right. But you still believe. And that's
Precisely.
the important takeaway point. Yeah. So are both of your parents Muslim?
Yes, they are.
Good. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically you were born Muslim. Yeah.
Yes, I was.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. hmm
Oh, good.
And I think my father remember. He told me one time that I had gotten an award in my school because I used to go to school up Philly. He told me that I got an award once for being so devoted to Islam, and I mean, I like, I, I, I do, I don't, I, I don't really remember that part, but I remember when I was away in Maryland, I had this lady, blind lady. She complimented me on how devoted I am, and she says to me, "I can tell that you are a devoted Muslim." I say, "How?" And she says, "Because of how you pray all the time." I'm like, "Wow, I never had nobody compliment me like that before."
Well, interesting. Well, good. Good. Any other final questions you really want to ask me? As I always like to say, if you can ask me only one more question to really make me sweat to see if I'm worth my salt as a podcaster, what do you really want to ask?
Well, will people see this? Will this be like uploaded and will people see it?
Yes.
Okay, so like where can people find it? Where do people find it at?
Well, I will send you the YouTube video along with wherever you follow along on the podcast, whether it's Apple or Spotify. I mean, do you prefer Apple or Spotify? Most people listen over Apple and Spotify
I
usually.
do Apple mostly. I do Apple mostly.
Good to know. So I
I do
have
Apple.
to take some time to actually produce this episode a little bit. But the video footage, I will just send it back to you. And then, of course, it's yours to share.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's how this works. And then
Oh
over time,
wow.
more people will start to understand and start to hear these start to hear our conversation and maybe comment below or send some make some interesting comments on it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So if someone wants to get in touch with Nasim, how can they do it?
Well, I mean, if there's like social media platform, they can like if they got Facebook, they can submit friend requests or stuff like that, or if they like or stuff like that. And like one thing about me is like I'm very social, so it's like I love to meet people on a personal level. Like I don't like to just talk to them just online. I like to know them like outside of like online platforms too.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
know them like outside of online platforms. So like like for example, like my girlfriend, we met on a like on a gaming group,
Mm-hmm.
but probably like the next day, guess what she does? She gives me her number immediately, and I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, whoa. So yeah, I love it. So yeah,
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
so so yeah, like so yeah, like I like to know people on personal level.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. But I mean, if someone wants to ask you a question or if someone wants to get in touch with you, maybe they're in the audience somewhere. I just meant how could they get in touch with you?
Like I said, if they have Facebook or if they got Discord, you can send me a friend request.
Okay, well, I tell you what, we'll include those links in the description. And that will help them to know who you are and to get in touch with you. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Hmm.
For sure. All right. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening and thank you for watching today. And I have to basically say, I really appreciate you joining me at such short notice, kind of on the spot here, but you did a really magnificent job, as all guests do. So have you ever heard of my podcast before, or do you know how I end a podcast here at Aaron's
No, I
Opinion?
have not. I have not heard of it before.
Well, that's fine because I'll tell you. Thank you for listening. We look forward. We would say thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care of yourself, Nasim, and to everyone else in the audience, take care. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode. So thank you. And as I say, help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow. If you are still watching on YouTube, like the video, comment below, share, subscribe, and all of that. Nasim, thanks again for joining us. Just we have to say it again over on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll be back soon. So we will catch up in a few minutes on Discord, I guess.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll catch up there in
Okay.
just about an hour. I think you can hear from me again over on the Discord. I still have some questions and I still have to get a little bit more information to build a description, but I'll tell you about that. All right.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Great episode as always. Take care. Help one person a day.